Assalamu alaikum students. Our topic for today is cervical plexus and cervical part of sympathetic chain. First, the cervical plexus is formed by the upper four cervical nerves. As you know, each of the spinal nerve divides into ventral and dorsal rami. The ventral rami of upper four cervical nerves form the cervical plexus. Cervical plexus supplies some neck muscles and diaphragm and areas of skin on the head, neck and upper chest. It is located deep to prevertebral fascia where it lies posterior to sternocleidomastoid and internal jugular vein, while scalenus medius muscle and levator scapulae muscle are present posterior to this. Formation. Each ramus except the first divide into ascending and descending parts. Now these are ventral rami of upper four cervical nerves. Each ventral ramus except C1 divide into ascending and descending branches, and then these ascending and descending branches join to form communicating loops. These are loops which are present in the cervical plexus, and all the branches then arise from these communicating loops. Branches of the cervical plexus can be divided into superficial branches. The superficial branches are cutaneous branches which perforate the cervical fascia and supply the skin, while deep branches in general supply the muscles either directly or by communicating branches. The superficial or cutaneous branches are lesser occipital nerve from the C2, transverse cervical and great auricular nerves from a loop between C2 and C3, and supraclavicular nerves from a loop between C3 and C4 ventral rami. The first cervical nerve has no cutaneous branch. In this diagram, we can see the cutaneous branches, the lesser occipital nerve, the great auricular nerve. You know the area of distribution. This one is transverse cervical nerve, and these are supraclavicular nerves which supply the skin over upper chest, and these all nerves emerge at the behind the posterior border of sternocleidomastoid, and if you remember, I have told you that this area is called nerve point. Now deep branches. Deep branches can be divided into two groups, medial and lateral. In the lateral series, we can divide the deep branches into further two groups, communicating branches and muscular branches. The communicating branches which arise from the second, third and fourth cervical ventral rami, they may connect the accessory nerve, the spinal accessory nerve, and through these they supply the proprioceptive fibers to sternocleidomastoid and trapezius, while the direct muscular branches are distributed to sternocleidomastoid and trapezius. Again, these are proprioceptive fibers we have just discussed. Then levator scapulae and scalenus medius muscle. In the medial series, the communicating branches pass from the loop between the first and second cervical rami to vagus nerve, hypoglossal nerve and sympathetic trunk. Now one of the communicating branch is very important. The fibers or the communicating branch which arise from the first cervical nerve, ventral ramus, it pass and joins the hypoglossal nerve. मैंने आपको ये hypoglossal nerve के साथ भी पढ़ाया था. The communicating branch carry fibers from the first cervical nerve and they join the hypoglossal nerve, and on its way these fibers gives various branches like meningeal branch, then superior root of ansa cervicalis, and then it supplies two muscles, genioid and thyroid muscles. So remember, these are not the branches of hypoglossal nerve, and hypoglossal nerve actually only carries the fibers from the first cervical nerve through this communicating branch. Muscular branches on the medial side supply rectus capitis lateralis, rectus capitis anterior, longus capitis, and longus colli. Muscular branches via inferior root of ansa cervicalis also supply few muscles, we will discuss it, and then the phrenic nerve. Phrenic nerve with a root value of C3, 4, 5, it chiefly arises from the fourth cervical ventral ramus, but also has contributions from the third and fifth cervical nerve. It is formed at the upper part of the lateral border of scalenus anterior and descends almost vertically down on the scalenus anterior muscle, where it lies behind the prevertebral fascia. It descends posterior to sternocleidomastoid, the inferior belly of omohyoid, internal jugular vein, transverse cervical, and suprascapular arteries. These are the structures, two structures, the transverse cervical artery and suprascapular arteries actually cross the nerve. So these are structures are present anterior to phrenic nerve. Sometimes the branch from the fifth cervical ventral ramus arise separately, and then it is called accessory phrenic nerve, and if it arises, it joins the phrenic nerve later. The next important part of cervical plexus is ansa cervicalis, that is also called ansa hypoglossi. This is a thin nerve loop that lies embedded in the anterior wall of carotid sheath. It is formed by two roots, the superior and inferior roots. The superior root of ansa cervicalis, also called descendens hypoglossi, it contains fibers from the first cervical spinal nerve. It leaves the hypoglossal nerve and then it descends anterior to carotid sheath. This is superior root of ansa cervicalis, which on its way gives a branch to superior belly of omohyoid. Then it joins the inferior root of the cervical plexus to form ansa cervicalis. Now the inferior root of ansa cervicalis, which is called nervus descendens cervicalis, it is formed by the union of a branch from the second and third ventral rami. It joins the superior root anterior to common carotid artery and forming a loop that is called ansa cervicalis or ansa hypoglossi. Now this thin loop of nerve, which is embedded in the anterior wall of carotid sheath, supply all the infrahyoid muscles except thyroid. Thyroid is supplied by a communicating branch from first cervical nerve, while the other muscles are supplied are sternohyoid, sternothyroid, and inferior belly of omohyoid. In this diagram, we can see this is hypoglossal nerve and this is first cervical nerve and a branch from communicating branch from first cervical nerve which joins the hypoglossal nerve, and on its way it gives this one superior root of the ansa cervicalis. This superior root supplies one muscle, the superior belly of omohyoid, then joins the inferior root. Inferior root arises from the second and third cervical nerve and it joins the superior root. Now you can see the branches which supply the infrahyoid muscles. The next is cervical part of sympathetic chain. The cervical sympathetic trunk lies on the prevertebral fascia behind the carotid sheath. It consists of three interconnected ganglia: the superior, middle and inferior ganglia. The cervical sympathetic ganglia send gray rami communicants to all the cervical spinal nerves but receive no white rami communicants, and their spinal preganglionic fibers emerge in the white rami communicants of the upper 4 to 5 thoracic spinal nerves, mainly the upper 3. In this diagram, you can see the thoracolumbar outflow or sympathetic nervous system emerge from T1 to L1 or L2 segments of the spinal cord only. These sympathetic fibers join the spinal nerve, and on its way they give white rami communicants to sympathetic ganglion, and now here either they synapse or they ascend or they descend or they pass as such. You have studied it in the first year. Now in the cervical part of sympathetic chain there are no white rami communicants because these ganglia receive the fibers which are preganglionic sympathetic fibers from the upper 4 or 5 thoracic segments of the spinal cord, and when the fibers in the white rami enter the sympathetic chain they ascend and reach the cervical part of sympathetic chain. So एक बात याद रखें कि cervical part of sympathetic chain में preganglionic sympathetic fibers upper 4 or 5 thoracic segments of spinal cord से आते हैं. Now in this diagram we can see the location of cervical part of sympathetic chain on each side. This one is superior cervical ganglion, this is middle cervical ganglion, and this one is inferior cervical ganglion, which are connected through these fibers. First of all, superior cervical ganglion. The superior cervical ganglion is the largest of three ganglia, and it is formed by fusion of upper 4 ganglia. इससे पहले हमने एब्डोमिनल पार्ट ऑफ सिंपैथेटिक चेन पढ़ी, थोरेसिक पार्ट ऑफ सिंपैथेटिक चेन पढ़ी, जहाँ पर सेपरेट गैंग्लिया प्रेजेंट थे, लेकिन यहाँ पर ये गैंग्लिया फ्यूज़ हो जाते हैं और फ्यूज़ होके ये 3 मेन गैंग्लिया बना देते हैं, द सुपीरियर, मिडल एंड inferior. So the superior cervical ganglion is located just below the skull, opposite second and third cervical vertebrae. Its branches can be divided into lateral, medial and anterior branches. Now number 1, gray rami communicants to upper 4 cervical spinal nerves. We have just discussed that each of the cervical ganglia will give the gray rami, but they will not receive any white rami communicants. Then communicating branches to 9th, 10th and 12th cranial nerves. Then the sympathetic fibers pass along these nerves to supply the areas. Medial branches. One of the important branch is pharyngeal branch to carotid body and pharyngeal plexus. Then cardiac branches. You have studied the cardiac plexus in first year. The superior cervical cardiac branch arises from the superior cervical ganglion and takes part in the formation of cardiac plexus. Anterior branches are very important because they supply sympathetic fibers to structures in the area of head. The branches along internal carotid artery, the internal carotid nerve which pass along internal carotid artery and supplies one muscle in the eye, that is dilated pupillae of iris. Then it gives deep petrosal nerve for pterygopalatine ganglion and sympathetic branch to ciliary ganglion, while rami along external carotid and its branches supply along facial artery to submandibular ganglion, then along middle meningeal artery to otic ganglion, and then branches to facial sweat glands. So two of the parasympathetic ganglia, the pterygopalatine and ciliary ganglion, they are supplied by branches along internal carotid artery, while the two other, the submandibular and otic ganglia, they are supplied from branches along external carotid artery. The next is middle cervical ganglion. Middle cervical ganglion is the smallest of the three, as we have seen in the diagram. It is formed by fusion of fifth and sixth cervical ganglia, and middle cervical ganglion is located at the level of sixth cervical vertebra, superior to inferior thyroid artery. This relation is important, please note it. It lies superior to inferior thyroid artery in front of sixth cervical vertebra at the level of cricoid cartilage. Remember that cricoid cartilage lies at the level of sixth cervical vertebra. The branches from the middle cervical ganglion are the thyroid branches, which accompany the inferior thyroid artery to thyroid and parathyroid glands. Fibers to both glands are actually vasomotor. Then again the cardiac branch, which is called middle cervical cardiac branch, the largest sympathetic cardiac nerve, which forms deep cardiac plexus on each side. Communicating branches to superior cardiac, external laryngeal and recurrent laryngeal nerves, and then branches to trachea and esophagus. So these are the branches from middle cervical ganglion. The next is inferior cervical ganglion, which is also called cervicothoracic or stellate ganglion. It is irregular in shape, and due to its irregular star shape, it is called stellate ganglion. It is probably formed by fusion of lower two cervical, 7th and 8th cervical ganglia, but it often fused with first thoracic segmental ganglion, and when it is fused with this, it is called cervicothoracic ganglion. This ganglion lies on or just lateral to lateral border of longusculi between the base of 7th cervical transverse process and the neck of first rib, which are both posterior to it. The vertebral vessels lie anteriorly. The branches from the inferior ganglion are gray rami communicans, again to 7th and 8th cervical and 1st thoracic spinal nerves. Cardiac branch, that is inferior cervical cardiac branch to deep cardiac plexus. So this is important that the cardiac plexus is actually formed by sympathetic branches from the cervical ganglia. The branches along subclavian and vertebral arteries. Now in this diagram we can see few of the branches arise from these ganglia. This is superior cervical ganglion. The branches from it form plexus around internal carotid artery, and we have just discussed the branches from this plexus. Then to carotid body and sinus, and this one is superior cardiac nerve. Then the middle cervical ganglion, again the gray rami communicans and middle cardiac nerve, and this one is inferior or stellate ganglion and its gray rami communicans and its branches. Ansa subclavia. Now what is this? The middle cervical ganglion is connected to inferior cervical ganglion through a nerve loop. This nerve loop winds around subclavian artery. You can see this is middle cervical ganglion. From here, this nerve loop, it winds around subclavian artery on each side and then joins the inferior ganglion. This loop of nerve is called ansa subclavia because it winds around the subclavian artery. That's why it is called ansa subclavia, and this is viva question. Now a few of the important clinical points related to sympathetic chain. One is stellate ganglion block, that is also called cervicothoracic ganglion block. It is performed by first palpating the large anterior tubercle of the transverse process of sixth cervical vertebra. We have studied the anatomical features of cervical vertebra, and we have seen the transverse processes and the anterior and posterior tubercles present there. So the anterior tubercle of the transverse process of sixth cervical vertebra is largest, and it is called carotid tubercle because the common carotid artery can be compressed here against this bony point. So after palpating this, and it lies about finger breadth lateral to cricoid cartilage, the local anesthetic is then injected beneath the prevertebral layer of deep cervical fascia. The anesthetic agent around the large cervicothoracic ganglion actually blocks the transmission of stimuli through the cervical and superior thoracic ganglia, and this ganglion block may relieve the vascular spasms involving the brain and upper limb. This diagram is showing the location of stellate ganglion block in both these diagrams. The next important condition is Horner syndrome. Horner syndrome is due to lesion of sympathetic trunk in the neck, which results in sympathetic disturbance called Horner syndrome. It is characterized by meiosis, ptosis and anhidrosis, the three important features. Meiosis, that is contraction of the pupil, is due to paralysis of the dilator pupillae muscle. The ptosis, that is drooping of the superior eyelid, results from paralysis of the smooth part of levator palpebrae superioris, while the vasodilatation and absence of sweating on the face, that is called anhidrosis, is due to lack of sympathetic nerve supply to blood vessels and sweat glands. The Horner syndrome usually results from either traumatic injury to cervical part of the sympathetic chain or the involvement of ganglion in the cancerous growth like carcinomas of the lung. So these are the common causes of Horner syndrome. So this was all about the cervical plexus and cervical part of sympathetic chain. Thank you so much.